Now let's look at some contrasts. Last time we talked about this model that has three separate lines, so we're interested in analysis of covariance. So you can see the plot there. There are the three separate lines, categories A, B, and C. And so now let me compare and contrast this classical way of doing this to what we're doing. So if you want the classical way, you would usually fit the category, the x variable, the x being in control of our slopes, and then the interaction so that you make sure you're fitting separate slopes along with separate intercepts. And you'll get this output, and it's kind of confusing as to what exactly this variable x is testing. So let's see if we can figure that out using some contrasts. So if we want these contrasts, we can come up here and do lots of different things. So suppose if I want to test for equal intercepts, the way this proc GLM did down here when I put in this cat, that'll test for equal intercepts. So if I want to run my own test for that, I can do that by hand using this set of code here. I'm going to say cat, and then I'm going to put two different contrasts in here. And then these two contrast note are separated by a comma, so I'm going to get 2 degrees of freedom before I finish off this contrast with a semicolon. And then these two contrasts are just testing whether the first category is different from the second and whether this first category is different from the third. And those are the only 2 contrasts we can do. You can pick out 2 other contrasts, but you can only pick out 2 is the idea. Okay. So, and then the next thing is to just throw some zeros in here. You don't actually have to do this, but if you want, you can. So the idea is I've got, say, alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3. This is my parameter vector. So suppose I have these parameters. So the idea is I'm just going to go ahead and show you visually what's happening down here. I'm not interested in the slopes for this model. So if you want to do something like equal slopes, test the slopes instead of the intercepts, you could do the same thing just backwards. So now I've got the numbers in here, and then that's of interest, and then I've got zeros over here. But then the sum of slopes, this is testing whether beta 1 plus beta 2 plus beta 3